It is utterly disingenuous. It is utterly disingenuous. You should retract your insidious,
I'll put your arguments in their place in a moment.
Record. You're insulting every single person.
I'll expose your dishonesty in a moment.
I regard the Minister's approach to being completely dishonest, representing a government that is completely dishonest, that corrals power, listens only to certain insiders. This minister has an appalling record in not in any way engaging with pro-life people, respectful people who have a case to make. Presided over a completely corrupt process whereby the 3-year review in abortion was supposed to be an independent person. He gave that commitment at a certain point. He said that there would be public recruitment of the person, and in the end the government chose a person who was not independent and who had expressed views in favour of changes in our abortion law. And the later attempt then to kind of shore up that inadequacy and corruption in the process was it simply meant that they had to be independent from politicians, and absolutely laughably thin. And that's why I say there is no other word for the government's approach in this. It is unprincipled, it is dishonest, it is reckless about protection of human life. And it's also reckless, and I think this is coming out in the referendums and other campaigns we're having, that the government is more interested in getting its way than in consulting with ordinary people. It is more interested, and the minister is more interested in talking to insiders than in, for example, hearing from, even as a democratic obligation or courtesy, the many, many representatives of the pro-life perspective in society, which says that both mothers and their unborn babies should be protected. And there's something Borg-like for fans of Star Trek, in which the minister and the government just, plough on mechanically, as though there weren't ethical and professional concerns, as though there weren't countless good people in our society who want to witness respectfully to the dignity of both unborn babies and their mothers, and who would deserve at the very least the courtesy. And I remember actually engaging with the minister a couple of years ago on these issues and saying, would you consider meeting? Oh, I'll meet with anybody. But that was what was said to me off camera, so to speak. But when it came to requests to get a hearing from the Department of Health, I'm afraid it was computer says no. So I don't have any respect for the way the minister carries out his responsibilities as a Minister for Health, particularly in relation to, I don't have anything against you, Minister, personally, but I utterly deplore the way you have carried out your duties as Minister for Health, and the government you represent have been utterly unprincipled and utterly disrespectful of human life, and in recent times utterly disrespectful of dissent. The arrogance of power is clearly on display. Now,
we're on amendments dealing with a particular bill, not about government.
Thank you, Carly.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, to respond to what has been said, and I will take the ministers first, but perhaps more important than the ministers' contributions have been those by my friends and colleagues in the Seanad, Tom Clonan and Aaron and Paul, and of course I'm very grateful to Sharon Keoghan for her courageous intervention as well. But to respond first of all to what the minister has said, he made a big play about the fact that I put it to him fair and square last week that he hadn't managed to give us any kind of chapter and verse in the way you would expect in a democracy in advance of a big change in the law, something quite unprecedented, something that curbs free expression in an unprecedented way. You would expect that there would have to be a very good exceptional reason for it, and you would expect that there would be, a considerable body of visible evidence making a case of a problem that cannot be otherwise solved, other than by legislation. And I brought to the minister's attention what the Garda Commissioner had to say a couple of years ago, I think now, and he has not contradicted it, nor has he indeed dared to refer to it, which was to say that, paraphrasing the Garda Commissioner, that we had laws adequate to deal with any problems. I also said to him that no healthcare provider had given any evidence of complaint that he was able to draw our attention to. And he brandished with pride today a statement not from a healthcare provider that's involved in the day-to-day dealings with healthcare on the ground, but with the Borg-like bureaucracy that is the HSE. And he very conveniently has a submission from the HSE that says all the things that the government would like them to say, that alleges some instance of physical and verbal aggression. I would certainly deplore that, and I would suggest to the Minister that there is law to deal with that on the statute books. But of course, we don't know, by the way, whether this was just cooked up by somebody in the HSE as a convenient note to pass to the Minister through the Department of Health in due course, because we don't know if they're telling the truth or not. I've no doubt that it could happen. But I would like if there could be some independent body, now not what the Minister means by independent, I mean somebody really independent who would actually scrutinise what complaints were actually received by the HSE. The Minister in July 2022 issued a statement that included the following. I wish to acknowledge the helpful public discussion on safe access zones over recent months, and in particular the work of the Together for Safety group in informing the development of legislative proposals. Now, that is the only organisation outside of the HSE that I have heard the Minister quote. And in relation to that organisation, the University of Limerick Hospitals Group was forced to take the extraordinary step of issuing a statement challenging claims that there had been intimidatory, quote-unquote, anti-abortion protests outside its facilities. And last year, a spokesperson for the Cork University Hospital last year, the spokesperson for the Cork University Hospital told the Examiner newspaper that, quote, to date, Cork CUMH has not received any complaints from patients regarding the protests. The spokesperson also explained that alleged protests are very infrequent and typically consist of between 2 and 4 people. So let's just reflect on that for a moment. 2 university hospitals setting the record straight, one of them following claims from an abortion activist advocacy group, Together for Safety, and the University of Limerick Hospitals Group and Cork University Hospital Group. And not only putting the record straight, but not, in the Cork case, having received any complaints from patients regarding the protests, and the spokesperson explaining that alleged protests are very infrequently and typically consist of between 2 and 4 people. So the public listening in, when they want to adjudicate who is being dishonest, the Minister, when he's talking and having a go and spewing venom against people who are, as he puts it, in people's face, or the reputable institutions who make it clear that there hasn't been a problem. And just by way of, I suppose, coda to that, and you know, I might just reference one thing that's relevant to this. I was born in Portiuncula Hospital in Ballinasloe. My mother nursed there. We have a long knowledge and acquaintance with that hospital, and are very grateful for the health care that we as a family have received there over the years. And last December, when I heard the sad news that the service of abortion provision would be extended into Portiuncula in Ballinasloe, I made some comments that, to the effect that I was very sad about that, and I thought the tradition, in the tradition of St. Francis of Assisi, indeed, that had led to the establishment of that hospital, hence the name Portiuncula. And I said that I encouraged people in Ballinasloe and the surrounding area to take every opportunity to engage with the medical and other staff at the hospital courteously and constructively to discourage the practice of abortion and to never let up until human life is fully respected again in Portiuncula and in all other healthcare facilities in Ireland. And Caherly, would you believe that led? People say we have privilege in this house, but I suppose we have to, rightly, be held to account for any statements that we might make in press releases or elsewhere, and have no problem with that at all. But would you believe that that statement of courteous and constructive engagement led to a complaint about me to the Committee of Members' Interests in Seanad Éireann, and it was claimed that I had not upheld my duty. And it's just relevant that yesterday it landed on my desk that the Oireachtas Committee met on the 17th of January and decided that this complaint was frivolous and vexatious. And why is that relevant? Because, of course, this frivolous and vexatious complaint, it came from the Together for Safety group, or a member thereof, to whom I will give the charity of anonymity in this chamber. But I merely make the point that these are the people that the Minister is relying on. These are the ideologues. And why is that significant? Because we heard today from friends of mine here in this chamber, and I don't make light of their personal experience, Aaron and Tom. And the truth of the matter is that we are all of us flesh and blood. We are all of us have a mixture in us of emotion and intellect. And we all bring our life's experience and our reflection on our life experience to the consideration of these issues. And none of us has a monopoly on compassion. And my own concern for the protection of unborn children, the protection of excellent standards in maternal health care, and witnessing to the dignity of every human life, and hoping and working for a day when our hospitals will not be places where the intentional termination of innocent life is characterised as abortion care or health care or any kind of care. Those people also, people with that concern, also bring their emotions and their life experience into the situation. And therefore it is wrong to posit a difference between ordinary people who are suffering and people who might witness to the dignity of human life as being merely protesters. When it is quite possible, and I would have no difficulty introducing, I suspect, if I were to try, no difficulty introducing people here to people who have witnessed outside hospitals or in the street against the injustice of abortion, who themselves may have suffered miscarriages, who themselves may have had abortions, but who know the value of a child, who know the importance of honouring authentic health care for the protection of mother and child, and who are not into judging any person, but who are simply trying to hold up a candle in the darkness that is Ireland's abortion law, with our massive increase in abortions in recent years, with our laws that don't provide for any precautionary pain relief where late-term abortions may be taking place, and where we've had reports of the trauma that some healthcare people have experienced when they've seen late-term abortions taking place and the infant emerges alive, and the whole question of whether there's palliative care in that situation. The barbarism that has just descended on us in some cases, where we're, it seems to me, rapidly catching up with Britain in our unthinking cruelty. All of this stuff feeds into a consciousness among many people in our society that there must be a better way than abortion. Remind my colleagues, Tom and Aaron, Paul and the Minister, that there are people who witness against abortion, who believe in the value of respecting human life, who support the idea of peaceful and honourable witnessing to that in public, who don't believe dissent should be crushed. And among those people are people who have also suffered. And it's important that everyone here accepts that point intellectually and internally, that nobody has the monopoly of compassion here. This isn't a debate between unthinking, unfeeling, protest-minded people who are, not in touch with one side of their brain or another. This is all of us struggling, suffering humanity, trying to figure out the best way to order our society. And there are people who have suffered themselves, who believe that they should be able to witness to the dignity of the human life. There are people who have suffered themselves as a result of abortion, who would hope that their presence, their peaceful and respectful presence within the vicinity of a healthcare facility, without knowing who's going in for what, as I have reminded people already. We don't have a system where there's any possibility of a person feeling personally targeted, and that is the one saving grace about a very bad system where we have corrupted healthcare with the provision of abortion. But that issue at least does not arise that a person could possibly feel personally targeted. And that's why those who say and allege that those who want to witness against abortion are out to be, to use the minister's, iniquitous phrase, in people's faces. Nobody is in anybody's face here. Nobody wants to be in anybody's face here. And let those who do want to be in anybody's face, let them be targeted by the public order legislation. So let's have no more of this dishonesty from the government. There's law in the statute books, as the Garda Commissioner said. But for those who want to engage in the kind of witness to human dignity that has not caused a problem in the eyes of the Limerick Hospital, that has not caused a problem in the eyes of the Cork Hospital, and the only people that the Minister has been able to draw on is the highly questionable document from the HSE, given that it is, as I said, hand in glove with the government, and what I would regard as a discredited abortion advocacy group. Let's be in no doubt about this. The impetus from this legislation is not coming from ordinary people who have felt intimidated and have got in touch. This is coming from ideological groups who have got in touch with Sinn Féin, with Fianna Fáil, with Fine Gael, with the Greens, and whose opinions are in vogue, and who don't have to try very hard for access at all. And as I said, we saw this insiderism, and we've seen it in recent days. We welcomed, and I add my welcome to the representative from the National Women's Council of Ireland. And there's an organisation that has completely failed to represent the diversity of women's views across the country.
The bill now
yes,
in a huge
but
way,
it does, I accept that, but it does indicate the insiderism that's going on. Only response here today has been to attack those of us who are concerned about this legislation and try and portray us as heartless, as wanting to be in people's faces and so on. But caricaturing your opponent is no way to govern responsibly. What we have tabled here today are amendments. Amendments that seek to strike an honourable middle ground that, to my mind, are more constitutionally focused in that they protect freedom of expression and are more proof against eventual challenge to this legislation, and also that seek to create that balance whereby the same standard can be applied to a protest regardless of whether it's outside the Dáil or anywhere else, that there's no distinction, that there's no cordon sanitaire, but that the standard is that protest, advocacy or dissent is not directed at a specific relevant healthcare premises or persons accessing a relevant healthcare premises. That's an honourable compromise. And that is what I would ask the Minister and his civil servants to think about between now and report stage.